Good, good. Right, okay. Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. It's a great pleasure to welcome you all to this event in the frame of the Urban October. And now I have to see that I can perhaps try to click the presentation myself. I don't know if that's possible, Ishitiak. No, I think I'll have to let you do that. Yeah, we will handle that with the presentation. I hope that it's working perhaps for the others. Perhaps it has to do with the fact that I'm not GIZ. Yeah, smart cities and twin transition, examples from Asia and beyond. So on behalf of TurboClick, the Transformation Opportunities Climate Change Working Group, we welcome you all to this session that we are convening together also with the FMB, the Sector Department on Democracy, Digital Governance, Urban Development, also the Climate Smart Cities India project, the International Smart Cities Network project, and also the Experts for Partners project. We are really happy to have this session with you all today. And my name is Lucy Maya. I'll be guiding you to this through this day, to this 2 hours. Together with the support of Sebastian and Ishitiak. Before going into the agenda and a little check-in, just to set the frame also, I'll hand over to Sebastian Markert and Ishitiak Hossain, that are the speakers of this very active working group, TurboClick, and they will set the frame a bit about the topic and our work. Sebastian and Ishitiak, over to you.
Yes, also good morning or good afternoon, depending on where we are currently staying from my side. My side is Sebastian Markert, and I'm the speaker for TurboClick, Transformation Opportunities in Climate Change from the two of us side. So just a little bit setting the frame for you to know. TurboClick actually is a cross-sectoral working group. It belongs on the one hand to SNGA, Sector Network Governance Asia, and on the other hand to two of us, the Sector Network on Transport, Environment, Energy, Water. And so as it is one of this particular setting, this kind of cross-sectoral group at the interface of governance and climate change, for environment infrastructure in Asia, we're actually having two speakers. So from the tour side, it's me, Sebastian, also deputy project head of the Climate Smart Cities project in India. And from the SNGA side is Ishtiak, and I'll hand over to you now.
Thank you, Sebastian. Good morning and good afternoon. This is Ishtiak Hossain. I am based in Bangladesh. I am working in a SSNLDP 2 project, really climate change project. I am doing a co-speaker role in this TurboClick, as Sebastian mentioned, from SNGA side. SNGA is a Sector Network Governance Asia, and we are welcoming you, all of you, in this event, Urban October celebration event. You know that TurboClick actually every year organizing celebrating Urban October, and this event is part of that, celebrating Urban October. And in this event, actually from SNGA side, Andrea Taucher, she is presenting here. Thank you, Andrea, for making your time with us, and hope you will be enjoying this whole session. Thank you, Lucy. Up to you.
Great. Ishitiak, you can go to the next slide, and then perhaps also Sebastian wants to mention a little bit about our work on the topic.
So again, you see the multitude of activities, sectors, topics that we are covering, and also several of those, especially those that comes to the state of the art of the twin transition, will be discussed today. So twin transition, what is twin transition? We're talking here transition in the field of digitalization, as well as transition in the field of climate change, and how this comes together. So we will see today lots of very interesting examples on activities on the ground when it comes to using digital approaches for climate change adaptation as well as mitigation measures. And then also from the sectoral department or just some general guidelines, papers and so on to really see how we can put all of this together and learn from each other. So yeah, I think this will be a very, very interesting, fruitful exchange in the next 2 hours. Lots of different presentations, also opportunities for discussion and learning from each other. And yeah, just here, when you look at the right side, when we talk about our TurboClick activities in the last year. So there were 2 products which we also developed exactly in that same field. So one was a study database on the compilation analysis of digital solutions for climate resilient and low carbon urban development. And then also a database of selected climate and COVID-19 related digital tools, and then also solutions at the local level. So later you will have also then the presentation. You click on it and get to know more about these products. Yeah, but this is exactly this kind of nodal point where it comes together between climate change and digitalization, where lots of things and activities are ongoing, which is definitely something which all of us in our project will work together with a partner very intensely today and in the future. And with this, I think we can continue. Ishtuk, if you want to add, or Lucy, I'll hand over back to you.
Great, thanks, Sebastian. You set the scene about our working group and that we have already been working on the topic already, and yeah, that we want to continue, and that's why we are here today, and we are really happy to have so many of you joining and also so many knowledgeable speakers. We have our all-male panel, fortunately, but perhaps next time we are having more colleagues, more female colleagues as well. All those who were planning to be here, they had to, yeah, they were not able to make it, but still, we are very happy to have a really amazing lineup of very knowledgeable colleagues coming here today to talk with us about especially the topic of smart cities and several examples from the ground. So the topic is how to achieve green and digital transition in cities, how are projects in development cooperation contributing to this transition, also in line with understanding of GIZ's understanding of smart cities. We are really glad to have Philippe Rivière here with us today to present the Climate Smart Cities working paper. We will have also Liju Matthew from India, from the Climate Smart Cities project, talking about making cities climate smart with digital solutions in India. Peter Seiler from the project International Smart Cities Network will present very successful citizen-centered innovation in digitalization of local markets. And we are really happy that we are also able to have colleagues that are experts placed in 2 different partner cities of German cities, talking about the municipal partnerships topics and how they are approaching this topic of climate smart cities or smart cities in Indonesia and Palestine. And we will have 10 minutes presentation for each of you, about 5 minutes of questions in between, so that we can clarify certain aspects of that presentation. But then after that, we want to have a joint discussion among all of us, of you participants, of also the speakers, and to come up with some recommendations and some suggestions also for our work. Before we start, it's just always nice to have a little bit of a checking, and we have planned time for it. So let's try to now make some time to activate some knowledge, and also perhaps also to know where you are. The idea is actually now that we do a Menti exercise, and I posted the link in the chat. You can click directly in the link, but if you go to the next slide, Ishtiaq, you can also have the code. You will see the code there, and you can go directly to menti.com and enter that code. So there also the QR as a third option to enter the application, and I think that most of you might be already used with Menti, and the first question is the city you are, and I will share my screen now so that we can see. I hope that it's working, Ishtiaq, if I can just somehow. Yeah, I can share my screen. Okay, great. Then we see that we have, of course, many colleagues based in Germany, our state of Hessen, perhaps. Yeah, Istanbul is there, Eschborn, Bonn, New Delhi, Jakarta, Frankfurt, Freiburg. Yeah, I was hoping to have some more. No, it's coming. Nairobi. Oh, that's really nice. Cologne. Yeah, we have Beit Jala in Palestine. That's nice. Good. I hope it's working for all of you. I don't see many 16 have participated already. Perhaps some answers are still coming. But yeah, it's good to see we have colleagues also from India, but also from many other cities in Asia and worldwide. Kambatoa is there. Good to have so many different cities with us. You can still continue voting, but I would like to start with the next question, which is just some activation also for us to set the scene in the sense of what do you associate when you think about the topic of smart cities and twin transition? What comes to your mind? Buzzwords, you don't have to elaborate much. It's not going to be a word cloud because I thought that would be a bit tricky, but some cards will be showing now. And we then start activating already some knowledge in the crowd, some collective intelligence. Yeah, less is more, systemic approach, green, digital, and citizen-oriented, very nice. IoT, Internet of Things, using technology for our benefit, co-creation, co-creation twice, digitalizing the city in a better and more integrated way with technology, holistic approach, great answers, making cities more accessible through digitalization. Perfect. I don't know if it's somehow coming further. Oh yeah, inclusive city, livable cities, inclusive and pro-poor. Great, that's good. I think we have a lot of buzzwords that will be talked about in the next minutes now with the presentations. And with that, I would stop sharing here. Let me see how to come back and hand over now to Philippe Viera for him to start his presentation.
Thanks, Lucy. Hi, everyone. Ishtiaq, can you allow me to have control of the presentation? Just makes it a little bit easier.
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay. Hi, everyone. Philippe Riviere is my name. I work on issues of urban and local development in the sectoral department of GIZ headquarters. So that means I, in my day-to-day, am supporting a lot of projects that work on local and urban development. And let's see if we can go to the next slide of this presentation. There we go. Okay, there's a lot of clicking, but I like to keep my audience captivated. I was taught at university that you shouldn't present all the text at once, so I like to stick to that, but of course everyone has their own style. So let's try to recap a little bit, and I'm going to introduce or briefly explain to you a paper that we recently published on smart cities, and it's called Smart Cities: A Citizen-Centric Approach. And we're going to talk about, first of all, the context a little bit, and then go on to what the content of the paper is before finally making the jump to twin transition. So smart cities really brings together two megatrends, as most of you know. That is digitalization and, of course, also urbanization. And really, until this paper was produced, was drafted, there had been no common positioning on the part of GIZ, or let's say any sort of common position stance from GIZ, what exactly smart cities is or what it means for GIZ. And this despite the fact that in the last 3 years alone, we estimated that roughly 15 projects work in the areas of smart cities in one form or another, either very actively or more passively. And that in the past 10 years, there have been dozens of articles and papers and concepts that have been published within GIZ, also externally, that talked about smart cities. But despite all of this, there was still no common stance or position on the topic. It took nearly 2 years to publish this paper. I felt the need to mention this because I think it's important when you're talking about such a complex matter and also within an organization that is as large as GIZ, why did it take so long to publish this paper? So for starters, we needed to include a very large number of stakeholders. It started internally within headquarters, where we took the different competency centers that are based in the sectoral departments. And for those of you who are not so familiar with how our sectoral department is set up, we have roughly 20 competence centers, more or less, and about 7 of them were involved in the drafting of this paper, simply because smart cities touches upon so many different areas, from traffic and mobility to water and sanitation, then also the people who work in digital matters, and then those who work in urban development, such as myself. So many people had to be involved. And really it meant that we drafted internally the paper after the great groundwork that was laid by a consultant. We drafted the paper between end of 2020 and the summer of last year. And then we went through several rounds of internal and external quality control. And here I differentiate between internal, as in GIZ internal headquarters, and then external, in our opinion. Of course, everyone might interpret this a little bit differently, but that would be the projects that are not based in headquarters. But they also needed to be brought on board, because even if this is a position that should be, or a stance that should be coming from headquarters, it's important, of course, that the projects who are on the ground, that they could also somehow identify with what we had produced. There were some hiccups. I put a little smiley face there. I think that says enough. When it comes to the editing and design, that's of course a feature of our work, is that often for the final step before it's published, it needs to be given to consultancies that, or media, graphics designers. That took a little bit longer than expected, but yes, fortunately we completed that. And one final thing before going to the next slide. We really focused on consolidating existing information. So when we're talking about the Smart Cities paper or the GIZ Smart Cities concept, it's not that this paper per se presents something new, it's rather that it attempts to consolidate all of that has been produced in the last 10 to 15 years and try to bring it under one sort of common umbrella, one common theme. And that's very important when you're talking about such large, complex, cross-cutting subjects. When it keeps growing and growing and growing, you sort of lose the common denominator. So we really focused on the consolidation and less about creating something new. So on to the content. As I had mentioned before, our objective was a consistent GIZ position on smart cities. We really wanted everyone to be targeted by this paper. So it's in the process of being available externally. That should be the case in the next few days. It has already been distributed internally through a few different means, but really we're looking at, in terms of a target audience within GIZ, but also our funding and commissioning partners, and also our partner institutions that we work with outside of Germany. We also wanted to, as far as possible, come up with some sort of definition, even though it's very difficult to define such a term. Basically, the two closest sentences that come to how we define smart cities is that the first one is that we understand smart cities as being characterized by the wide use of technologies in potentially all sectors in the city. And the second one is that we adopt an inclusive definition of smart cities, really that's based on the needs and priorities of our funding agencies, simply because at the end of the day, we are a development agency that is dependent on the funding of commissioning parties. In the paper, then, we also looked at some challenges and potential smart cities solutions for cities, and we clustered them based on the very traditional sustainability trifecta of environmental, social, and economic. And then moving on to the second slide, we looked at GIZ's role. So what role can we as GIZ play? We, of course, are not Google or Facebook or SAP or Wikipedia. We have a unique role in that sense. And really what we do is we focus on strategic, technical policy and governance-related support that surround these smart city solutions. So again, we're not the provider of these solutions. More broadly, we offer a range of support from e-governance to e-participation, open data and open government, more focused on integrated urban development, reducing the digital divide, supporting the implementation of the 2030 agenda, which is of course very important for the two mega trends of digitalization and urbanization, and also a little bit, let's say, more in focus these days is the cybersecurity standards that are required in digital solutions. We highlight some projects, and I won't go into too many details because you have to read the paper after all, but we did highlight some projects. And finally, we provide very extensively, and I think this might be almost unique in the sense that our annexes are larger than the paper itself. Why? Because again, we're consolidating information. So the annexes, they looked at, first of all, an overview of the existing GIZ Smart Cities literature. And as you can imagine, over the year and a half of drafting the paper, we had to add more because more things were being published by different colleagues throughout GIZ. Then secondly, we provided an overview of not only GIZ Smart Cities projects, but also approaches and projects, because it could be that you have a project that isn't necessarily focused on smart cities per se, but some of its approaches adopt what we would consider a smart cities approach. And then finally, we provide an overview of the commissioning parties' different smart cities approaches. This is primarily, of course, focused on the German commissioning parties. The EU is also included. Here, of course, two things are important to note. First of all, we had a change of government roughly a year ago, so we had to adapt and we had to revise this overview because as these competencies were shifted around within the German federal government, the definitions and responsibilities were also changed a little bit. And the second thing to note is our commissioning parties have different interpretations of smart cities. And this is really one of the key challenges that we have when it comes to saying GIZ and smart cities means X, because X is so dependent, again, on our commissioning parties, and they themselves don't have a one singular approach to this. So smart cities and twin transition, I tried to bridge the gap a little bit here based upon what we are speaking about today. So as such, smart cities, in my opinion, and I think quite a few of you would probably share this view, smart cities are digital and they should be green, but smart cities aren't necessarily always green. And I did a brief research earlier this week, and literature, at least within GIZ, is underdeveloped when it comes to combining these two. And even outside of GIZ, the EU has done quite a bit, but it's still underdeveloped. And my hypothesis for this is primarily because smart cities is almost an older term. It's been around for a good 15, 20 years. Whereas twin transition is a little bit of a hype term right now, and it's much of a newer term. So that connection is underdeveloped, at least when it comes to literature. Nonetheless, I think it's very important that we look at these two interrelated but also slightly different concepts of smart cities and twin transition, simply because greenifying the smart city is crucial, since digital advancement in cities is often very, very resource and energy intense. And if we do so in a non-green manner, then really we might have very smart cities, but that are essentially brown and not green cities. And I think that's something that is definitely to be avoided. So the key question for me is why is twin transition necessary? And I think that we can learn from the modern smart cities approaches, which have also been developing in the last few years, that when we talk about urbanization and digitalization, there needs to be the citizen orientation. Some of you may have noted in the warm-up by Lucy, I had written green, digital, and citizen-oriented, and I think that's also something that's important in twin transition, is this focus on citizens. And of course, you know, a livable city is not only meets our demands and, on a technological level, but also on a environmental and ecological basis. And I believe that's it from my side.
Perfect. 10 minutes time. It was about to ring my alarm. Great, Philip, for this insights about the paper. I take that good things need time to get prepared, of course, but the idea of involving so many people and how to become also quicker and faster in this, I think it also has to do with some smartness. Of course, not reinventing the wheel, but it's great to see this paper finally ready, and of course we will share the link for access to it also afterwards. I would like to open the floor now for quick questions regarding what Philip said, perhaps very much also focusing now on the paper. The issue with the twin transition we can try to discuss also after I have presented, and we have time in the end planned for that as well. But if there are questions, please, you can raise your hand and then unmute yourself and ask. I learned that one needs to be a bit calm and waiting for people to come up with their hand. In the online setting, it takes a bit longer.
In the meantime, I was going to say, Lucy, you're very provocative by putting this picture here that essentially just shows a very old school highway, which is not a good, best common practice whatsoever. But
no,
I like
no.
that you put it.
But you see, I there are the green there, and something. I mean, we need to try to think about how is the vision of the city that we want to have, right? And that's the idea. Ben, perhaps I ask you something quickly, Philip. In the process after that, so looking especially at the process level, involving so many people, how can we learn from that, especially in GIZ? And it's not so much now with having to do with smart cities topic in itself, but this co-creation, what are success factors for that, and how do we really manage? Because this is, I think, also reality in the local level, and getting people together and coming from this mindset of everyone is doing their own thing to cooperation and systemic ways of doing things. What can we learn from our own work in GIZ? How is your experience, or what are your insights on this?
Well, let me answer that with 3 points that come to mind. I think the first one is aligning incentives, and even if it took a long time, I think we were able, in the end, probably was a success, simply because we managed to bring so many people on board, which if you speak to many of my colleagues in headquarters, that's not always the case. So we aligned incentives in such a way that it was clear for other people that they would also benefit by cooperating on this. And then I think secondly is, you know, setting the objective or identifying the goal in a common way, but also in something that is usable. Because I think one of the issues we have in GIZ when it comes to technical work is that we produce great things, but then they're not really used by anyone for anyone. I think a few weeks ago or months ago, I saw that there had been this World Bank analysis of how many of their publications were accessed in over a decade, and what was it, half of their publications weren't even accessed in their NICE database. And I think we have a similar problem at GIZ. And that's one of the reasons, and I'm coming to my third point, why the paper, first of all, isn't very long. It's about 10-15 pages of text and then another 10-15 pages of annexes. And why we are also in the process of finalizing a 2-minute video to go along with this. Because at the end of the day, I cannot expect that if we send this 20-30 pager around to the ministries that we work with in our partner countries, that all of them are going to read it. Whereas a 2-minute video, you know, that's something that's a little bit more digestible. And that's one of the things that we identified when we set our objectives. We said, look, we create a paper, but the paper will then be the basis for a small briefing video. And that's not a novel approach. Of course, we're constantly producing little videos and movies in GIZ, but I think that's something that nowadays probably has to be a minimum criteria, that we don't only create something in a paper format, even if it's digital, but that we go beyond that.
Great, thanks. So incentives, co-orientation, usability, that's great. Philip, you are staying with us. We can have further questions then after all the presentations. Thanks a lot. Keep up the great work. It's a pleasure to keep the exchanging with you. I really like this motivation behind this team working in this area, and we need to build momentum and keep the conversation going. We will share the link of the paper afterwards. No problem. Good. There is a comment in the chat. We can discuss that. I'd say after all the presentations. Just that we keep the time, and for now we will then be moving to the Climate Smart Cities project, which is a project that has been implemented together with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs in India and other partners, and aim to develop methods to integrate climate aspects into the Indian Smart Cities mission in a result-oriented manner. Happy to have Liju Matthew here representing this project and talking about the digital solutions in India. Liju, the floor is yours, and I hope you can also take over the presentation from Ishitiak and clicking the slides yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. Thank you so much. And Sheetal, I've asked for this request. Yeah, I think now I have access. And yeah, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to present. So I will be presenting basically the project that we are implementing in India, which is Climate Smart Cities project. The project is now in its last leg, about to get over, but there are a lot of activities that we actually did on ground, especially focusing on the digital. Digital is one part, but also the climate, how we can link the climate and digital together. So yeah, sorry, somehow not able to move this slide.
You can click again.
Yes, now, okay, thanks. So about the Climate Smart Cities project, the project now it's till November. So next month is the last month of it. Now we are like almost wrapping up things on ground. So we are actually working on at 3 levels. Basically, we could say 3 tiers. One is at the national level, where we are working with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. And then the states and the cities that we are working in Bhubaneswar, which is in Odisha. It's more like the east. And then we have Tamil Nadu, where the main focus city is Coimbatore. And we are working in Kochi in the state of Kerala. And what we have done is we have also identified some particular topics that we'll be working on all these 3 cities. So Bhubaneswar, our main focus area was stormwater and C&D, construction and demolition waste management. And in Coimbatore, we had urban green cover and C&D waste again. And Kochi, our main focus area was municipal solid waste management and green building. And urban planning was like the overarching thing, so which we were covering in all the 3 cities. And we also had NIUA, the National Institute of Urban Affairs, and DIFU, which is German Institute of Urban Affairs, and TU Berlin, Technical University of Berlin, as our implementing partners. And I'm also delighted to see Klaus there, who was also part of our team in this project. So we also had the Smart Cities in all the cities who are supporting us from the city level. Yeah. So, sorry. Yeah, so now I'll like to touch upon what the main key activities, especially when we're talking about digital interventions. So what we are doing in the city level. So we, in the city of Kochi, we prepared a climate action plan. It was a preliminary assessment. We did a climate action plan for the city, and it was also divided into various. We tried to identify the city or evaluate the city on various aspects, which included solid waste management, water management, and green building, water supply, and sanitation, and biodiversity. And then these maps were all digitized, and then ultimately we all tried to overlap all these maps and prepared this vulnerability hotspot for the city of Kochi. So this vulnerability map actually helped the city in identifying the key areas where they have to actually put on their interventions, and also identify the main area. Like for example, in some places you can see there are the dark red. So these are the areas where which needs immediate intervention, especially when you're looking at different sectors. So, and also one of our intervention or one of our suggestions on this was the replacement of their existing streetlights, which are the major GHG emitter. The city also implemented that part, and they have now replaced most of their existing streetlights with energy efficient lights. So that was one of the achievements, and in all these sectors, we also tried to identify the amount of emission that has been emitting in each sector, and this vulnerability hotspot has been prepared based upon that. And so moving on to the next, this is also an overarching thing. These two things actually basically support city in preparing plans for them, not from a climate angle, and also like looking at the digital, because that is the next level. So when we prepared a heat island mapping, we did for the three cities, Kochi, Coimbatore, and Bhubaneswar. And then our focus area was also like in the assessment framework that I'll talk about in the later slides. Urban green planning, green cover, and biodiversity was one of the sector where this heat mapping, it talks about preparation of heat mapping for cities. So we help the city in preparing these heat maps and help to identify the city in the main hotspots that the city is having. I'm sure all of you must be knowing what is like heat island situation is, because at particular area there will be more heat, or it will be higher temperature compared to the surrounding area. So if you can see the red spots where the temperature is very high. So and when we have more green spaces and water bodies, this evaluation help the cities in identifying these areas, and also plan for their intervention, because when we are actually able to explain to the city, like, because if you have more green and and blue spaces, you actually reduce the temperature or heat in that region. So these maps are all digital, and this was also like we have used the Google search engine, which was tool that was being used for this development of these maps. They were like, we also have an advisory that we prepared for this. This advisory is already launched at the national level, and it is available for all the 4,000 cities that is there in India, more than 4,000 cities. So now they can also use this methodology. It's a bit technical, but yeah. So, but this advisory is available for cities for developing these tools. Yeah. So now moving on to one of a specific topic that we are working on in the city of Bhubaneswar was stormwater management. Like what we tried to do is we try to map all the hotspot. Like what happened is in the city of Bhubaneswar, it very frequently during every season when it rains, they have this flooding issue. So we tried to map all this. This was mapped on GIS platform, and all these CND, construction demolition hotspots, and the other waste hotspots were mapped on this, which the whole Bhubaneswar, it was mapped there, and then this was also handed over to the cities for them to take the necessary actions. We also prepared a master plan for the city, which included the topographic survey. This map was prepared there were like two areas that we prepared. One was like a pilot area, which is a small area that we prepared, which is Nayapalli. There, with the help of TU Berlin, we also had use the sponge city concept. We try to reduce the amount of water that is coming to that place. and arresting those water. And we prepared a detailed master plan, stormwater master plan for a which is a particular different area on the last slide, the last picture that you can see on the right. So it's the master plan for the whole Ward 4 area that we prepared, and this is all digitized. It's all available on AutoCAD file, and also the topographic service all AutoCAD file that is available for the city for further interventions. This has all been handed over to the city. And then Bhubaneswar, under there's another project that was there in Bhubaneswar, which is ICTA. So under that project, there was a tool that was developed, the Move City Savior app. This is like an early warning system that was developed for the city, which actually identifies particular place where there's any flooding, and it goes to the corporation. The citizens can complain, and then ultimately go to the corporation for necessary action. Under the CSE project, we took it further. So under the ICTA, this was only for a particular area, but in CSE, then we developed it for the PAN city, and we handed over to the corporation. So now the whole city has this map, but under the smart cities mission, every city has a command and control center that has been developed. So there is a command center IT platform, or a big command and control center that the city has developed, and all the movement in the city, even traffic and everything, is available for the city for their view. So this will now also be uploaded there, so that it's visible for the citizens. Yeah, and also now for a particular in city of Kochi, we prepared a route rationalization study for like existing waste management practices or the collection and transportation system that they are undertaking. This is also for a pilot area. This is a small area that we took, and we tried it to, with using app, and also with support of students. So they supported in identifying the exact route, how the vehicles are moving for the primary collection and secondary collection, and ultimately like secondary, how it is getting disposed in the sanitary in the landfill site. I'll not say sanitary, but yeah, in the landfill site. So the whole route was mapped, and then the best optimal route was tried to identify, so that the amount of transportation that is needed is reduced. These maps are all in Google Earth and all that. We prepared this, and also in AutoCAD file, and this was handed over to the city. And now the city is planning to like further develop it for the whole city area. Yeah. So next, sorry. Yeah. So next is like a study that we did in Coimbatore. This is we prepared, like our main focus area in Coimbatore was on this urban green cover. So under that, we developed a concept for a biopark there in Coimbatore. So this is also now we also have a landscape plan and all that for that area. So this whole plan was developed using the local species there, and this has also been handed over to the corporation, where we have also tried to identify the key issues and problems on the city through their through an urban design thinking methodology. And so next, quickly, I'll just move on. So this is also one of the main intervention that the city, the project has taken up. When we are talking about digital, training was one of the main component of the project. Earlier, what initially the project, when it was planned, it was mainly planned like as a physical training. But then because of the COVID and pandemic, we had to shift from a physical to an online mode, which was also a challenge. But now I think we have mastered it. So our first training, which was CND, was a physical, but then so NIU and DFU were supporting and organizing all these trainings and TOTs, and we shifted ourselves from a physical training to an online mode. And now all these trainings are also available. There is a national urban learning platform which is being hosted by NIUA, and it's like through the ministry it is run. All these modules are now available in the like it's in the process. 2 of them are already available. Now we are modifying, and the rest all will be uploaded in the NULB platform. And through this platform, now all these training modules and everything will be available for general public for their usage. So it's now available for all of them. So now that is the role of digitization, you can say, or IT. Like it's not only limited to one place. Now you can expand it further. So this is something that, because all our learnings are there now, which is available for the city. And this is one of the interesting things that we prepared at the national level. This is Climate Smart Cities Assessment Framework. And linked to it, we also prepared an self-assessment tool. So this is like this actually assessment framework evaluates. Initially, it started with 100 cities. Now it is further expanded. It's 140. And now they are planning to go further to 500 cities. So it is evaluating these cities based on various parameters. And they've also prepared this tool, self-assessment tool, where the cities can actually identify the GHG emission through, because there is a lot of calculation. This is an Excel-based tool. So they can put in their values and ultimately try to identify what is the amount of GHG that is being emitted in their city. Yeah, so this is a C-Cube, the Center for Alliance that we had supported, and now there are various alliance members who are part of it, and they will be working, especially in this climate direction. And so these are some of the advisories that we prepared under the project, which is now available in the public. We also have this website. I can also copy this in the chat link. You are all free to visit that website, and so all these advisories are available there for your review. Yeah, that's it from mine. Thank you so much.
Great. Great. Thank you so much, Liju. This is impressive. It's really amazing. No wonder you are wrapping up, and you should be really very proud of all this work, all the projects. That's really good. I would like to open the floor now for questions, direct questions someone might have. So towards what Liju presented. Yeah, Sanjay.
Thank you, Lucy. I wanted to break the ice because, this project is very close to my heart. Back in 2017, I was in India doing some kind of evaluation for one of the smart city projects, and had a very nice interaction with colleagues like Aparna and I don't remember all the names, my apologies for that. And we also had the opportunity to travel to places like Coimbatore and Bhubaneswar and so on. And at that time also, we were very highly impressed by the achievements of the project. And there was one very strong, constraint between the partner expectation and what as we GIZ could offer to them. Partners, of course, carry certain baggages, certain inclinations, certain political discourse, which is more inclined towards infrastructure, and these robots and all these drones and so on. And they care very little, in most of the cases, none, about inclusion and participation and digital divide and so on. And we are offering all these services. And at that time, our impression is that we could achieve even more results if we could make our approach more inclusive in such a way that we also involve the citizens, private sector, for instance, local NGOs, communities, and so on. Could you tell us a bit about your experiences in this? I of course understand the constraints also in that, but if you could tell us a little more about how is the receptiveness among the partners or partner understanding about the support that we offer to them, and what approaches that we have been adopting at the moment, which makes our support towards more inclusion and political economy oriented. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Sanjay, for the question. Yeah, so but I think I would say we were quite lucky in getting that response, because cities were very they proactively they supported us in many of our interventions. Like, for example, the green spaces that we did in Coimbatore, now the city has taken it further. We had supported in developing this Miyawaki forest interventions and all that. Now the city have identified many places for themselves. Now they're taking it further. Even for the Bhubaneswar, which I talked about, this stormwater management, the city had actually requested us in preparing this master plan for this particular area, which is Ward 4. And because that was an issue that they're facing, and from this activity that we did in the Nayapalli area, so with taking it further, they wanted us to support them in preparing this master plan for that area. So I would say, and also the national level work, that assessment framework, the ministry itself, because our focus was only in this, looking at only these 3 cities. But when we approached the ministry, they said, why are you restricting yourself to these 3 cities? Just spread out. And they had asked us to prepare the assessment framework, and then we ultimately landed up in supporting the 100 cities. And now, which is then so that was the kind of response that we got. So I would say maybe the project was lucky enough to get that support. And when inclusiveness, I would say, and the whole project has been very inclusive, because from the national level, when you're looking at the assessment framework, it has been before developing all these indicators, we had this subgroup committee meetings and all that conducted. It was not like only GIZ or the ministry sat and we prepared these indicators. There were NGOs, there were various think tanks, other agencies who were actually called together and were discussed, and these indicators then ultimately found their like shape. So this is how we planned, like the assessment framework was planned. And when we're looking at the city level, we actually took the urban design thinking approach, where we had 3 different stages. In the first stage, so where we called various stakeholders who are actually involved, because the actual citizens who are directly getting impacted from various RWAs, residential welfare associations, schools, think tanks who are working in the city level. They were called for these workshops, and so they were then we tried to get some like their issues and challenges that they're facing, especially on these topics, because I mentioned we had various different topics in the 3 cities. So stormwater in Bhubaneswar and green cover in Coimbatore. So like that, we had like urban design thinking exercise that we conducted. We also had a online survey that we conducted, like with support of TU Berlin, where this survey we had actually given it to the citizens and also the officials. So because of the pandemic, there were restrictions. So we thought we will have an online survey, and then this citizens actually they gave their inputs, their issues, their challenges. And this is how we developed some prototypes for all the 3 cities, and we developed a pre-feasibility study. And with the biopark that we just saw, it is an outcome of, you can say, the pre-feasibility study. Now it has gone to a detailed project report that we have now submitted to the city. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
Great. Let's keep this topic in mind about the citizen and how we shift this and what is our role also as GIZ. I would like to ask Gur, if you would wait. I would like to continue other presentations because we have time also for the discussions afterwards. If that's fine. Otherwise, perhaps you can also post your question in the chat for now, so that we can continue with the next presentation. You will still have time to pose your question. And that's a good bridge to the citizen and all this participatory approach, I would say, because now we want to talk about the International Smart Cities Network. It's a project that promotes the integration of digital solutions into citizen-centered urban development. So looking at the processes and also facilitates the exchange of good practices and experiences between urban practitioners worldwide. The network consists of core members in Brazil, Mexico, Peru, India, and Germany. We have now Peter Seiler as project director of the ISCN to present a very specific solution. And with that, I hand over to you, Peter. Thanks for joining, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, Lucy. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. It's good to see you after our last encounter at the World Urban Forum Katowice. I was just checking. Okay, so let me see if I can get control of the PPT. Lucy, I don't know.
Done.
Well, then you just do it. I'll just tell you when to move on. Yeah, so basically, as an entry, not much for me to add to what Lucy said. Now I will present a digital solution we within the International Smart Cities Network was created to focus on local food markets. On the next slide, please. The network secretariat designs, so to say, networking formats and events to facilitate the exchange between the urban actors, urban development actors worldwide, predominantly in the countries you mentioned, Brazil, India, Peru, and Mexico, including Germany, as here is the commissioning ministry, Ministry of Housing, Urban Development and Building. So we try to promote the integration of digital solutions into citizen-centered urban development processes, and always oriented towards the common good. So we do follow a multi-level approach, and of course, not only try to include national levels as we are commissioned by the ministry, but also look into regional and local levels, academia as well as civil society. And as long as it comes to the institutions and authorities, focus is always changing within the countries, as it is not always on national level that smart cities is a topic to be to be looked at. Next slide, please. The presentation, one of the activities I want to show you today, present you today, is so-called the Solutions for Cities. As a response to the outbreak of COVID pandemic, I guess you all heard about, and we're all dealing with, we had to support our network partners, or try to support our network partners, and to develop a co-creative and innovative solutions for their local pandemic responses, so to say. So there was this open social innovation format, which we called Solutions for Cities. And the focus was on agile methods and tools and principles of design thinking. So it was all online, because all the offline events that had been designed and planned were, of course, not possible. And of course, in the 5 partner countries, as mentioned before, we are looking in searching for replicable and scalable digital solutions. Next slide. Gives you the overview of this design, or this ideas competition. And there, of course, it was the Challenge Labs, so to say, a series of virtual workshops during which the design thinking coaches supported the cities in defining their actual challenges. And of course, that have come up during the pandemic. So this was, of course, our driver, so to say. And then in the next step, we announced the cities challenges on a digital platform. And then, of course, within 2 weeks, anyone that was interested could provide a solution which he or she thought would be an ideal fit to overcome the challenge. And then in this following step of matchmaking, it was more or less that the solutions had been screened. And then, of course, according to some predefined selection criteria, and then with the challenge owning cities, there was a matchmaking to see which solution fits the individual challenge best. Then it was a 3-day scale-a-thon, and this was like really a tough chapter, so to say, because the cities teamed up with the solution providers. And then in this 3-day event, together with coaches, design thinking coaches, as mentioned, they had to refine and adapt the digital solution to the specific context of each city. And then, of course, what we learned from this competition, which was made from scratch and rather in a short term, everybody who was involved, I guess, knows it, more or less designed overnight this entire process. But it proved to be a suitable exchange platform for cities, private sector, academia, and so on. So on the next slide, happy to show you the winner, so to say, the winning solution. And it was the team of the city of Kampala Capital City Authority that provided the solution, and then the city or the metropolitan area of Guadalajara in Mexico that had the challenge. And here it was, we designed together with our partner, the planning and development management of the metropolitan area. And there, of course, they were hoping to find a solution for the local food markets, because it is not like, especially here in Germany, where you have different supermarkets can get your fresh fruits from. It is more or less that those permanent food markets are the key supply. And with pandemic, you all can imagine those had been shut down. So in order to reduce the possibilities of spreading COVID. But nevertheless, this also had major impacts on the inner city, especially in this area. And luckily, the city of Kampala had a solution, had an idea what could be done and implemented in Mexico. And so they designed this app, which will be shown later on. but also I want to give you an idea how we implement this process, because the app in the end is nice, but it's always interesting to see how we get there. So on the next slide, you will see this, sorry, this circle, so to say, what we have gone through, and yeah, based on or starting with the user research, it was of course key to find out the actual needs and of the users of this app in the end. But of course, development and programming of this digital solution and the integration of the results of the user research was key in order to see what is the user experience and how does it relate to any further programming and updating of and actually developing of this app. Then, of course, it is always good to have it, but it's even better to have people that run the show, that know what they do, and so they can support. So capacity building also was important, not only for the users, but also for the administration. Because, I mean, the key is, and always we come up with some ideas and practices, but then long-term people on site need to be ready and do it and support it. So this was, of course, also something very important and which also consumed quite some capacity, not in vain, very useful. And then, of course, having an app in a city is nice. Having it in 2 cities is nicer, but having it in more is even nicer. So that's why the end was the transfer package, which of course made all the ideas and all the tweaks and hurdles and challenges available to others, how they have to deal with it, and including based on the source code that has been developed, how they can further develop this app. So we basically provide the framework, and then everybody else has same ideas, different products, different challenges, can continue with that. So then, of course, once it was done, on the next slide, we also went on site, so to say, for the piloting phase, and this was in end of last year, in October, fall last year. It was launched, and also with the support of the mayor, the idea is to spread it out to further markets, because it's not only one market in this metropolitan area, but of course to spread it out to as many as possible, and but also, of course, to markets interested. Then next slide, you will see more to it. So we go a little bit offline again, because you see some bikes. Ordering online is nice in the market, but how do those products get to your, no, one back, get to your apartment? And that's why 60 market vendors participated in the piloting phase. No, a total of 60 market vendors at all were the markets, and 20 participated, so it's not too bad. For the beginning, the city government provided the bikes, so you get a delivery as well. And then, of course, in on-site workshops, the vendors had been trained and have been shown the advantages and how to say potentials they have through this app, because of it is not it is always how to say their own choice to participate or not and to use this app. So on the next slide, you see some impressions. So I'll just go over this quickly. And then, of course, what is more important on the next slide, the recommendations from the pilot. You see on the next slide, Lucy. So basically, to identify the pioneer and market vendors is necessary to raise the awareness and take other market vendors to participate, so to say. So from a digital perspective, also this topic of leave no one behind was key that we were looking into, and is also a key topic of the ministry. Then, of course, iterations are key. First, orders placed, first products delivered, and then, of course, once you start acting, once you start working, you'll find out any potential upgrades, updates. So this is also constantly came into the design process. And of course, what I said before with the training of the authorities, also having a operational team on site is important to keep it running, but also to see where support is needed and where some updates or some refining of the app is necessary. On the next slide, and this would be my last slide, I had to run through a little bit. The transfer package, this QR code should work. It worked yesterday, where you can actually have access to it. Because as said, it is always from the beginning, we aimed at creating something that can be scaled. So this, and it's not only, how to say, we did it for this food market, and overall it took quite some time. They started even before I joined. So with doing this, providing this transfer package, also we want to help to save development costs and of course time, as both is limited with the authorities and with public funding. That's why we provided this on this homepage in English and Spanish. And with this, I would like to thank you for listening.
Great. Applause. Yes, very nice. I posted the link in the chat.
Thank you.
Congratulations also, Peter. I think this is really what you said, so many success factors for when developing an app is not only developing an app, right? There's so much beyond it, and you took really care about the sustainability of how that's being used and upscaled. So let's hope that perhaps also this is inspiring and being used also perhaps even beyond Mexico. That's the idea.
Exactly.
And now also I would like to open the floor for questions. Questions for Peter.
Until maybe some questions will come up. Lucy, I have to say this intersection you show here is really nice with the interchange, because I used to live to this, very close to this in Shanghai. And actually you also fit the right season with all the leaves changing colors.
Everything has been thought about.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, it's everything thought about. All these criteria were when I chose the picture to show here. So it's inspiring. It's inspiring. Yes. No, good. I think still perhaps some other people are thinking about questions. You had also like this process with the hackathon and really like very intensive design thinking and everything. What would you do different if you should start it from now? Do you have anything that like from the learning process, what would you have done differently?
Well, actually, now I have to be frank. I said I joined way after the hackathon and this entire process started. So if you allow, I would like to hand over this question to Sebastian Fritz, who actually was supporting it heavily from the beginning on. So
Sebastian, are you there? Yes.
I see him, yeah. So hopefully you can hear it. There.
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry, can I hear the question again?
The question is, you have a lot of learnings from the process of all these intense hackathons and all the design thinking and everything. Is there something you would have done differently if you would start it from now, if you would start it again?
Yeah, I think there were a few things that if we could get rid of all limitations that we're facing in our daily work, and if we had the chance to plan with more time in advance and so on and so forth, that we would have done differently. I think one really difficult topic for us was for the competition was to set the right incentives in order to well, on the one side, convince the partner municipalities, our international partners, to participate in the process for once, but also to gain better outreach and gain more solution providers to participate in the process. We were lucky that we were able to offer one of our international partner municipalities the implementation, as you've seen in the case of Mexico. We would have loved to offer this to more partners in an international context. In the same site, we included the German partner municipalities in the process in the competition. Without being able to offer them anything at all, because they're fast, they're learning partners for our international tandems, but not the main target group for our project for the work of GIZ. That was more on the side of the ministry, and they as well were limited with their budgets and with their possibilities. Also, they could not just go and say, okay, we'll hand out a prize money to any German city without a lot of legal implications. Yeah, and then I think we could also have more more effort, or it would have been good to have more opportunities to support cities afterwards to translate the innovative process into a legal process. Because if we look at the regulations and laws surrounding public procurement, it's not too easy to just say, okay, we do this innovative process. We work with one implementing partner and he'll get a contract afterwards. They have to be, you have to follow some rules, and it's not that compatible at the moment. I think there need to be found more solutions for that. Yeah, I think these are 2 learnings, for example, that we would like to change.
Great. So I see a lot of potential for new projects to come up with this from these learnings and improving also the process, and it's always good. I mean, it's the process, and we are always learning and improving. And also, I think also for our own advisory services, right? So what we can then offer better and think from the beginning. Great. I don't see any further questions in the chat or any hand raised. I would say we continue, and you're also, please, Sebastian and Peter, I hope you can stay until the end and we can have some discussion also afterwards. And I like that it's also what you mentioned about the partnership between in your competition between the German municipality and the municipality in Mexico builds the bridge to what we want to present now about partnerships. And we will have now Karim El Ali from Indonesia to present, and also Ibrahim Anastas. But before they present, and before I talk something wrong about the project that I don't know, I would like to ask Hannah Sharbet, which is a project manager in the Expert Funds project, to set the scene a bit about this project, and then hand over to Karim and Ibrahim.
Thank you so much. Yeah, welcome, and good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are from my side. So I'm not a panelist today. I'm just a project manager in the Experts Fund. Yeah, and as Lucy said, I think it would be good to set the stage a bit before you see Ibrahim and Karim and ask yourself, who are these people and how are they connected? So the Experts Fund is a GIZ global project. We work together with Engagement Global, with the service agency Communities in One World. And although we are we are not a typical global project, so we work based on declarations of interest. So that means we work with basically every municipal partnership between a city in Germany and a city in the global south that applies. And we assign experts to these municipal partnerships to support their projects. And these projects can be like in any field related to municipal development, which means it's a lot of transport planning, urban planning, waste management. Also, of course, digitalization is getting more and more important. So this is why I'm very happy that we have 2 of our great experts here who work in the field of digitalization in cities and how to make use of the tool of digitalization to make cities more attractive, more usable, more accessible. And yeah, we have 2 examples here, one from Indonesia and one from Palestine. So I think as I saw the presentations, we start with Indonesia, right, with Jakarta?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
We can start with the presentation. I'm hoping that Karim can take over control. Otherwise, if you want to share also from your side, if it's easier from your side, just let us know.
All right. So I give the word over to you, Karim. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah, and hi, everyone. Hi, I think I cannot share it because I'm tuning in from my iPad, so if it would be possible.
Yes, we can.
So, thank you. Yeah, hello from Indonesia. Good afternoon, good morning, or depends where you are. As I think Hannah introduced already, I'm going to highlight you some practical example from the Jakarta-Berlin Sister City Partnership, especially how the cities could foster on smart city and urban innovation topics with support of the GIZ. And we were also fortunate to accelerate this partnership through an additional EU funding, which we could generate as additional to the GIZ project. So if you click the next slide, you will see the agenda for today is not much. So I'm going to introduce you what is the Sister City Partnership about and how we approached towards more from an event-driven exchange, not really content related, to more a joint activity plan and a common agenda between the cities. And then I'm introducing you the EU-funded project, which is now taking the majority of the partnership activities as mentioned. And then I'm going to highlight one of our activities as a best practice, how we support the Jakarta provincial government in its transformation process. So if you click the next slide, you will see that Jakarta and Berlin are a sister city partnership. It's based on the next slide, please. So Jakarta and Berlin are sister city partnership. It's based on a common German-Indonesian approach, where initially they exchanged on topics like culture and sports. All the exchange since 1994 was mainly driven in delegation visit and like exchanges. In 2016, the cities focused more on the innovation-driven topic to connect the startup ecosystems through the Berlin-based platform Asia Berlin, which was also supported by GIZ in its initial implementation through the Bund Länder Pilot program. I don't know if there is an English translation for this, but I don't think so. And then in 2019, in a conference hosted by FKBW, the expert funds and the service agency for municipal partnerships in one world, I think is like the exact word, they expressed the interest to work on smart city and e-government topics and digital transformation, which led to my position. So as you could see, the cities expressed the interest in 2017, and then in 2019, the position was opened and I was seconded in Jakarta. So this might be also the experience working in municipalities. Everything takes a long process and a lot of effort in order to implement something. But however, maybe also through support of the GIZ, we were able to apply for an EU fund through the Partnership for Sustainable Cities program, and could really, within short time, kick off the project and sign an agreement, an additional agreement to the Sister City Agreement between the cities in order to implement a 3.5 million EU project fund. If you click to the next slide, you will see, next slide, please. So you can see how this is organized and what we are doing. So we have a contracting authority, which is the European Union. The state government of Berlin was the lead applicant based on the terms of reference from the European Union, and Jakarta acted as a co-applicant, but also co-beneficiary, which means that all the activities which we are implementing is targeted to the citizens of Jakarta, but also at the end, the co-beneficiary, which is the provincial government. The first time both cities agreed to support the agenda for sustainable development. And especially as Jakarta is the co-beneficiary, all the actions and activities we're implementing are aimed and tailored to support the digital transformation process of the city and the agenda and the Smart City 4.0 transformation program, which I'm going to highlight later to you. So as you could see, the project, we focus on two things. So one thing is capacity development of local authorities, which aims for good governance and smart city. And the second outcome is where I think Berlin can also chip in and share experiences as the entrepreneurship, to say like the buzzword startups maybe, and economic growth thing. Within the project, we also engage as a trilateral exchange to the city of Bangkok, which has a sister city partnership also with Jakarta, in order also to facilitate the South-South cooperation. And we engage with multiple partners in the project from Jakarta mainly and Berlin. So if you click the next slide, you will see how the ecosystem between Berlin and Jakarta now, after we kickstart the project in the midst of the pandemic, looks like. So we call it Team Berlin Jakarta, which consists of a multinational project team, which we could hire from the EU funds. So we have a team in Jakarta with 5 people and 4 people in Berlin who continuously work together on the implementation of the common action program, which the cities aligned. Plus additional, as there is a lot of administrative work involved, we have public officials which are always there and which are also being very high engaged in the activities. So as briefly explained, I don't think I need to highlight all what is mentioned here. We focus on 2 main pillars in the project. We have more until today, we have more than 52 events conducted. These are mainly like workshops, webinars, and luckily since beginning of mid of this year, the exchange was also not only online driven, but also we could travel with a group from Jakarta to Berlin. We already had a delegation from Berlin as part of the G20 and Urban 20 in Jakarta. And as a next step, we will join or unite the group again in Bangkok for the exchange. If you click the next slide, you will see the activity plan. Oh, okay, this one I think was, this was this is an old presentation I think you're showing, but this, again, maybe what we aim with the project is that we want to facilitate the knowledge transfer between the cities. In our activities, we always include best practices from Jakarta, from Berlin, and also from Bangkok, as we not only want to focus or we would also contribute in order to develop the capacity of the Berlin administration, as I think most of the German participants know, there is a strong need also for them to develop their capacity in digital transformation. In all our activities, we facilitate network and joint learning. And what we aim for is that, as you might know, the municipalities are mainly working in silos and focusing on their regional development, that they also think global and align their strategy towards the joint program. Next slide. Here's the action plan, which is structured into pillars. From all of this action are interlinked, so not only the entrepreneurship and economic growth sector is we design, and all the activities are mainly focused on smart city and urban innovation topics, and which contribute also to the first pillar. And all of these activities are leading to a strategy and implementation plan, which should be aligned and further improved for the city of Jakarta. So the city of Jakarta has already a smart city plan, but as I'm going to introduce you in the next slide, this smart city plan was implemented in 2014 and mainly targeted into citizens' engagement through complaint management. Now we are facilitating and supporting the city in order to create a collaboration system where engage with the citizens to co-create solutions for urban challenges. So as part of one of the activities is also that we set an innovation space in the center of Jakarta. If you go to the next slide, and the next slide after, I think, yeah, the next slide, please. Yeah, so one slide before. Yeah, thank you. So As I'm an integrated expert, I joined the Jakarta Smart City Unit in 2019. And in 2019, the Jakarta Smart City Unit was monitoring and coordination center for especially citizens' complaints. So through app-based services, the citizens could complain about things which are not working in the city, irrigation and littering or waste. And this complaint was, of course, measured, and the performance of the government was made public to the citizens. As a government change, the unit was transformed from a public body into a regional public-owned enterprise, which they were with the task to co-create with citizens solutions to engage or to create an ecosystem in Jakarta to work with startups, academia, and public and private companies in order to solve this challenge, the challenges of urban areas proactively, and also to commercialize technologies as in the new structure they could also do. I can see I just have 2 minutes left, so let me just then highlight in the next slide how this looks like. So we are currently setting up the innovations. So when we in 2020 started to discuss how this space could look like, so we didn't want to create just another co-working space. We did a benchmark on what smart city related spaces from worldwide were there. Here you can see what is maybe what was 2020 already on the map. So in Berlin has a city lab, and then other cities in Europe are also focusing on smart city solutions, but in Asia only Shenzhen and Singapore were there. So next slide you would see that so that we take on the left side you see the mission of the Jakarta Smart City, which is based on 7 indicators, and these 8 indicators should be used as a reference for collaboration and co-creation in the ecosystem, and shall generate the innovation in the city through the 4.0 transformation approach, where they want to engage with citizens as co-creators and facilitate this process within the hub. So the hub will be then the physical location where especially startups can join in order to collaborate with the provincial government. If you click on the next slide, please.
It seems we lost Karim. I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess it was a little bit broken for me sometimes, so I'm not sure if he had some connectivity issues. Hannah, I don't know if you have any chance to contact him somehow.
He's back.
He's back.
Yeah, sorry, my internet connection is a bit unstable. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. If you could just quickly close, Karim, so that we can.
Okay, just to sum up, so we are currently developing the space, and hopefully by March or April next year, we will soft launch it and align a program within the hub where we especially facilitate government technology, smart city solutions through a community-driven approach, and then also include the international collaboration through the Jakarta Berlin sister city collaboration, but not only focus on this, but also open this for the general international collaboration of the city. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much. It's so comprehensive and so impactful, I think, the work you were doing. For the sake of time, I would like to suggest that if there are questions, that we can try to address them already in the chat, but then after the final presentation by Ibrahim, we can then come to the questions towards the two of you by the colleagues. Is that fine? Ibrahim, then the floor is yours. I hand over to you.
Thank you so much. It's nice for me to be here. Basically, my name is Ibrahim Anstas. I am a software development engineer working as a local expert in Beit Jala municipality on the project of development of a municipal geoinformation system for Beit Jala. This project will be our example from Palestine. Can you go with the next slide? As for the agenda of this PowerPoint, I will talk first briefly about the Beit Jala Jena City Partnership. Then I will talk about the geoinformation system that is currently developed. And last but not least, about some of the outcomes of the GIS in the municipality. Can you go with the next slide? Okay, so as for the twinning partnership is between Beit Jala and Jena cities. This partnership started in 2011, focusing primarily on being only a cultural cooperation. This cultural cooperation complies with the sustainable development goals in both cities and in development and planning. And also it reinforces the communication throughout the development and also knowledge transfer between the two. Can you go with the next slide? But in 2018, this cultural cooperation was developed to be a focused cooperation, technical cooperation, going towards GIS for tourism. Can you go with the next slide, please? This technical cooperation was then further changed through some of the milestones that you can see briefly in this presentation, to become focused on the area of GIS only. That can you go to the next one? That after this cooperation was focused of the field in GIS, the municipality applied for the program of experts for municipal partnerships program throughout their technical cooperation between Beit Jala and Jena. That's where I came in as a local expert to develop the city's first enterprise municipal GIS. So it's like multiple milestones that resulted from cultural cooperation into a technical cooperation specified in GIS. Can you go with the next slide? Okay, so now we will talk about the next point in our PowerPoint, which is the main objective of the GIS. But first, I will tell you briefly about what is GIS. GIS, it is a system that develops and manages, analyzes all data, if it's spatial or non-spatial, by mapping it into the map. And for Beit Jala's case, this GIS system includes a development of a comprehensive data sets while creating this GIS tool that helps the municipality to do all of its, let's say, municipal work, day-to-day work, by optimizing the efficiency and especially the decision making. Okay, so I will list these main objectives of the GIS. This GIS first should support the municipal e-governance and digital transformation. Also, this spatial data that we are developing should be used for archiving and maintenance, of course. The third point is that this eGIS should help with the fees optimization, like the solid waste collection, crafts, commercial facilities licenses, advertisement signage. Fourth, it should increase the municipal efficiency and optimization in decision making, because municipalities have a very good role in planning and should, how can I say, be so efficient in their decision making process. Fifth one is supporting tourism and cultural heritage, because at first the idea was a cultural cooperation through tourism, but using GIS, we can also support the culture and tourism. The sixth one is like enhancing the public health satisfaction, because most of the facilities that the municipalities work is oriented for the citizens of Beit Jala, let's say. So basically, this helps in enhancing the public satisfaction. And the final objective is strengthening the technical cooperation between the two twinning cities, which is basically the core of the entire project, because it's through the cooperation. Can you go to the next slide? The development of the GIS is very highly technical, so I won't go through all of the the points because it's like there's already not that much time. But as you can see from this slide, such activities are worked day to day, let's say, because each activity has has a goal for one of the objectives of the EGIS. So I can read them, let's say, briefly, and if you have any questions, we can I can explain more to you in the Q&A session. Municipal spatial database, municipal spatial data regulations and protocols. We have the GIS portal development, digital archiving, cartography, and thematic maps production, visibility, communication, and public awareness, which is basically something so important. Digital transformation towards e-municipality, spatial analysis and modeling, theme-specific GIS development, like for heritage, for example, or tourism, heritage preserver and documentation, tax collection optimization and administration and management. Okay, so if you can go to the next slide. Okay, now I will talk into the last, let's say, section of our PowerPoint, which is the outcomes of the GIS in the municipality from 2020 to 2022. This project has been ongoing into development for 2 years now. Time passes so fast. And now we got the approval to extend the project for another 2 years in order to upscale the project to comply with our strategic plan inside the municipality. So now I will talk about some of the outcomes that we have from, let's say, the first 2 years. If I want to, let's say, to sum up or classify the outcomes that we have tangible outcomes and intangible outcomes. So I will classify them as this. And one of the, we have like 6 tangible outcomes and 2 intangible outcomes. One of the most 2 important tangible outcomes in the GIS development is that now we have a well-established complex spatial database, which includes many data of multiple levels for the municipal work. And we have the developed, well-developed GIS application. This GIS application with the database, you can, how can I say it? You can, they are basically the infrastructure of the other outcomes that we got. So this GIS application that it is developed, it's now used by more than 80% of the municipal staff within different departments and sections. And you can see here briefly that we have like a small statistics of multiple aspects of the system. So basically it's like used by 32 users because our scale in Beit Jala is very small, like we don't have that much kind of let's say staff. We also use the system and the GIS to survey more buildings, to survey let's say apartments and units, and also to digitalize some of the missing, let's say, documents that we have. Next slide, please. Okay. Another of the outcomes that we have is that this application is becoming a highly informative tool and also an accurate tool for data update, because the data is the core of the system, that the system can't work without any data. So the system now intelligently lists all of the information that it can get from the multiple levels and lists them into a very, let's say, friendly way of reading the information, and also providing the easy ability to data update and management, because this data will change, should change, let's say, yearly or maybe monthly, or even should be incrementally updated, because this data changes so fast. Next slide. Also, another outcome of the outcomes is that this tool is becoming a geo-archiving tool. I don't know if you all know, but most of the documents in Beit Jala are basically paper-based. So we can't go through digitalization and e-governance without having such documents digitalized. So now the system is being able to, let's say, archive all of the license of buildings and also the buildings and engineering buildings of engineering folders of each building as a surplus to the complex data that we have. And this will also give us the ability to increase more of the data that we have. Also, this application is ready to document heritage information that we are continuously adding such heritage information using our database, and this helps us to also to develop a map specifically for tourism, because tourism is basically dependent on the heritage information. And last of these tangible outcomes is that our system is now being a reporting and analytical tool for new projects and also existing projects that before planning for a new project or even planning of the existing projects, we can use the GIS to build thematic maps and also to have some analysis in order to help the efficiency in decision making. So basically it started helping us to tune in the existing projects and also to plan the next projects. Next slide. I'm sorry if I'm talking so fast, but because the project is highly technical, I just want to, not to bore you with a lot of information, and especially to, to get the information easily understood. Now we get to the final slide of our presentation, which is talking about the intangible outcomes of the outcomes that we have. Basically, because of our, let's say, knowledge and experience with GIS, this has been used as a channel to share knowledge with other municipalities and especially to capacity build the staff within the municipality. So either by doing direct operations like we do with Hebron municipality, because they are very advanced than us in GIS. So we do multiple, let's say, meetings, also with sharing knowledge directly whether in meetings or so, and also through digital hubs. And another important intangible outcome is that through our knowledge with GIS, the technical cooperation between the two twin cities, Beit Jala and Diana, is further strengthened by making technical exchanges and also monitoring of the GIS project. So they visited us in Beit Jala, and we're expecting to visit them soon, and we do online technical meetings in order to strengthen, let's say, the base of our project. And thank you so much for listening.
Great. Thanks so much for this presentation. You did a great work in bringing in this technical, of course, topic in a very concise way. And I'm really sorry all the time for rushing up with the time. That's always the not so easy task of moderators. We do have questions towards your presentation already, straightforward. And perhaps Charlotte or Sada, they want to unmute themselves and also just talk.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. My question is about open data. How is the acceptance of open data, OpenStreetMap, open doors or mistrust?
I didn't fully understand your question.
So about open data, is the municipality accepting open data, or are you actually using open data?
No.
OpenStreetMap or?
Okay. We basically used OpenStreetMaps, as a base when we were in the initial, let's say, development of the project. But now we are let's say, in a level that we can depend on our data that we survey. Like we had some information regarding, let's say, blocks and parcels and buildings from other authorities in Palestine. But now we took them and we are constantly updating them, especially as ownerships. And we are now trying to, let's say, depend to authorize our maps, let's say. So that's what we are kind of trying to do, because you can find some data online, like through OpenStreetMaps or so, but they are not so updated and maybe they are so old. So that's why we are going into a phase that we can depend on our data.
Thanks. Okay.
Yes,
Great,
and
Sada, please go ahead.
exactly. Thanks. Hi, Ibrahim.
Hi.
Thanks for your presentation. So I have a very concrete question, because there was one part that I didn't fully understand in your outcome slide. You were talking about surveyed buildings or surveyed apartments that were included in the GIS. What does surveyed stand for? Does it mean you did a building-based data collection? And what kind of
Yes.
data did you collect, or do I understand it completely wrong?
No. Yeah, you're understanding correct. We have like another project, which is the field survey team. We have like a team that goes into the field of Beit Jala. They survey the buildings because we might find some buildings that they were built, let's say, within the past 2 years or maybe the past 1 year. So we didn't survey. So they have like images of it. They also survey the apartments in it and units. So we get information about the buildings themselves, and also after, let's say, identifying that we have a new building, let's say we go to the authorities to get the, let's say, the information that is what is licensed. And then the team gathers information regarding the apartments. For instance, how many people live in, if this apartment is, has, let's say, a craft in it, or it's only for people living in it. If this apartment, if it's, let's say, people live in it, they don't live, maybe information regarding if it's a family, for instance, how many cars do they have, how, to gather as much information as we can. But of course, this information should be updated constantly, because it's changes so fast, and could be used also in planning of the city. Like if we can identify the places that are, let's say, people dense, so we can use that in, let's say, planning of other projects. So that's what we mean by survey, that the team, let's say, went to a portion of Beit Jala and surveyed how many buildings, how many apartments, let's say. But actually, this looks like this is an old presentation, because now we have more than 1,500 surveyed buildings and also more than 10,000 apartments. So I forgot to...
I mean, that is quite impressive for such a small municipality of Beit Jala to have such a strong field team. I wish we had this too. Yeah, so big congrats, because such a small, such a data collection on really like ringing the bells, etc., is quite time consuming. So
it's
congrats.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Sada, for your question. There is one last question, I think, for you, Ibrahim, about the governance framework. Yes, please go ahead, Abdelram.
Yes, thank you. I mean, first, Ibrahim, thank you so much. I mean, I really applaud the work you've done, because I think, especially in a place like Palestine, where truth and facts and stuff is all as often not very clear, it's good that you document stuff and data this way. So I want to really applaud this. But my question is more on the governance of the data, and of also like maintaining this project. So did you, as part of your project, kind of develop a certain framework on roles and responsibilities, who is responsible for what, when does data get updated, and so on? And also, did you develop standards for the data, and how they are how are they fed into the platform, and so on? Or are there maybe already existing frameworks on a national level that you used? I would be just interested in this governance aspect.
Sadly, in Palestine, or let's say in Beit Jala, we don't have such regulations regarding data and updates and all, let's say, this management. So it's like a very hard part on us to start working on, let's say, issue such regulations within the municipality. So now we are constantly doing meetings with other departments, because the work that has been done, it resulted in some, how can I say, activities that other, let's say, staff within the municipality should contribute. Like, for instance, the information regarding architectural information, or let's say engineering information of buildings. The engineering department should, let's say, take the role of update, for instance. Let's say the information regarding the information on ground, for instance, building updates or so, we should have like inspectors through the municipality with the responsibility to update such information. So what we are doing is like starting to conduct such rules and permissions to be updated, because in order to give everyone its field of work, so with his field he can, let's say, update, because like a person, let's say, from customer service can, for instance, update the information regarding to engineering. So we are working on involve everyone, but also to conduct like rules or so we can make sure that data is updated and also maintained in a way that increases the optimization and makes the complexity less, let's say.
Great, thanks so much. I think there's so much learnings that we can take from this presentation and also from all the other presentations. And I would like to invite now everyone that has presented to perhaps also turn on their cameras again. I hope that now we can see each other, and that we have also a proper round of applause for you all. Thanks for this amazing insights, and it has been a lot of input, a lot of information. Yes, applause and hearts. Now we can still have some time for discussion, not that long. The question that was asked by one participant, I think, has been answered by Liju now already in the chat. If there are specific questions to one presenter, you can still now pose it. Otherwise, we can still have a little bit of a more general and overarching discussion. Also, you can ask questions among yourselves as well. Let's now have some exchange. Let me see if there is any hand raised. So nothing there. Okay. Is Karim also still there? I don't know if he was having a problem with his internet. I wanted to have a picture of the presenters all together. Not sure. I think he's not anymore, but we can still have the one with the 4 of you, so you can smile. And yeah, so how we continue? How should that guide us, GIZ, with our work? I mean, what are the main outcomes we are taking also now from this event, and some recommendations towards the topic of twin transition? And I now have the topic of the comment of Klaus, I think, in the chat about technology and coming now with a new term. How was it that you mentioned? Let me read. I'm a bit worried about the technology focus. The smart is a buzzword. Twin transition is another. How should we see GIZ talking about these topics in the next time? Would someone like to answer? Philip, what are you taking from this insights, also perhaps also from the sectoral department perspective and from the perspective of the Smart Cities paper as well, and the connection you tried to make with the twin transition?
I mean, I think there is a movement already that it's not just about the technologies, right? I think in India, part of the discourse is smart city, smart people, right? So that there is that focus on people, on the citizens. Of course, even that, what exactly is meant by it, right? In some contexts, when you talk about inclusion, it still only includes certain parts of the population. When we talk about inclusion, we might already only talk about those who have a digital affinity. So I think there are other issues that come with that, but I don't really see any quick fixes or quick solutions. Rather, it's a slow process. I think the innovation happens on the ground. I think it's important that at a more aggregated central level, we try to capture these good experiences and try to support them. And I think GIZ's role in general should be to show how smart cities can be done in the right way, and to avoid some of the, I would say, pitfalls that are occurring in other contexts where digital tools and technologies are used, in my opinion, to control the population rather than to really support the population.
Yeah, totally. Great. Thanks. I think that has this understanding of the citizen-centered and the participation and the smart solutions and digital solutions as a means to it, right? So not only as something that is there because they're being offered. Any other thoughts from other colleagues? Also trying to wrap up a bit the learnings and the way forward, and also focusing perhaps also on learning from mistakes and also on also further ideas and insights that we can follow up. So because as TurboClick, we always try to also understand the scores in a sense that what can we contribute further, and not only that is finishing as we finish in a couple of minutes, but just that we are also taking further ideas and perhaps also jointly developing and innovating with the projects. I see some people already have to leave. We have only 3 minutes left, so there are many thanks and already in the chat. If Klaus, yes, I see now your hand is raised. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Peter. Long time no see. I have one additional question. First of all, thank you all for your input, and as I was involved in the Indian Climate Smart Cities initiative project, my question as freelancer is always, it gets interesting when the project stops. So we have projects implemented over 1, 2, 3 years, and one person from the Indian ministry, Mr. Kunal Kumar, said, generally now we need the hand-holding. So we need a kind of process which assures continuation, which sometimes stops when the project stops. I know this is a general problem for GIZ and for most projects, but I just wanted to raise this again because, as I said, it gets interesting when the project leaves.
Thanks. Would someone like to comment on that?
Peter?
Yes, indeed, it is interesting what happens when the project stops, but since we haven't stopped yet, we are still working on how to proceed. But no, of course, I mean, whenever you have created something that is doesn't have a best before date, so to say, when it's digital, we are at least our ambition, our goal is to share it with as many people as possible. Of course, not only internally but also externally. Which is in our case, it's how to say, it's somehow of course part of the DNA of this project. That's why this issue is not as big as it would be in, or might be in other projects.
Good. I mean, this is food for thought, perhaps also for a next meeting, a next exchange. We are always learning. We are always trying to improve. I think also project designs and sustainability strategies for things that are coming after things finish. And talking about finish, we are at the end of our 2-hour session. I thank you all so much for staying along with us, and also a big and warm thanks to all the speakers. It has been a pleasure to exchange and to hear about your very successful projects and processes. And we keep in touch. There is a planned webinar for somehow mid of December. We want to continue talking about the project. We have invited the DG Lab. I hope they can come and present what they're doing, and also a software company that is developing software for cities. So keep tuned about what TurboClick is doing. It would be great to have you there also joining. With that, I think on behalf of DoubleClick and all the projects participating, we just close and thank you all again for joining and for the great discussions. And stay healthy and smart. Goodbye, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you so much.
You.
Bye.
You should check. I think you can stop. You can stop the recording now.